Chapter 23 Sticks and Stones. Vulla was lucky at school because the girls used a nice, quiet playground. The boys usually played cricket and football on the grass oval, so there was little pushing and bumping where the girls played skippy. Jimmy was too young to play with the big boys on the oval, and he was happy playing with kids from his kinder years. Peter was an energetic boy, and he enjoyed physical games. He was often on the footy ground at school. Pete loved football, and pushing and bumping with the other boys did not bother him. It was normal for him to come home with scratches and bruises. However, one day, while Argiro was working at the cafe as a waitress, she had a visitor. It was Pete's teacher, who came to the shop during lunchtime. Because the school was only about 250 metres away, it was not difficult for the teacher to walk to the cafe. However, the teacher surprised Argiro by telling her that Peter was fighting on the oval every day. Worse still, the teacher believed Peter was the one to start the fights. She asked Argiro to make Peter stop fighting with the other boys. Argiro was shocked because what the teacher told her was not like her son. Argiro knew Peter did not have a bad heart. Peter himself had not told her about fighting with the boys at school. Argiro decided to go to the playground and see for herself what was going on. She went during lunchtime the very next day. The noise of school children during playtime is familiar to all of us, but nothing prepared Argiro for what she saw. There, on top of some playground equipment, was Peter with Stephen Haddis and some other Greek boys beside him. They were fighting against a circle of Australian boys who were yelling rude names at them. Peter was holding a long stick and keeping away the boys attacking him. He was teasing them with words, "Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me." Argiro could see her son was protecting himself and his friends. She felt pride that he was brave enough to stand up for himself. Peter and his friends were against a lot of kids, but they did not seem too afraid. They seemed to enjoy the challenge and to think of it as a fighting game. After all, the best method of defense is offense. If anyone could complain of bad behavior, it should be Argiro, because Peter was only trying to protect himself. Argiro went to find the headmaster to tell him Peter was being bullied. She told him to take care of her son and stop the boys picking on him. Pete's teacher never complained again. Argiro never told Peter about her visit to the school. or her little chat with the headmaster until many, many years later. Children of migrants had a few problems because Jimmy, Vula and Peter found themselves being bullied after school. It happened that as they were walking home from school one day, they were hit on their heads, chests and legs by acorns being thrown by boys hiding behind trees. It really hurt. All they could do was to use their arms to cover their faces and run away. They hoped it was just that one time, but it continued and even got worse as more boys joined in the fun. It seemed that the playground fighting had got out onto the streets. Now it was difficult to get home from school because little groups of boys waited to throw acorns at them along the way. It became a war game after school as piles of acorns were collected and used against Peter, who collected his own acorns and always fought back. Jimmy and Vula used to run away. Even Bob Tyden started helping Peter because he was Pete's friend and they often played together around the neighbourhood. Bob and Pete didn't want to look weak, so after school they would go down Billy Goat Hill to the oak trees in the park beside the pool. They carried bags so they could fill them with acorns to throw at the boys attacking them. When they were ready, they went looking for their enemies and started shooting their acorns at the other boys. They hid behind trees and fences when the other boys fought back. I think all the boys liked this fighting game, even though they got bruises all over their bodies. Because neither Argiro nor Theo had a driver's license, their children, like most children in those days, had to walk to school about 650 metres from home. However, walking from school became a real problem, so Argiro finally told her husband, Theo, what was going on. He decided to hire a taxi to deliver his kids to and from school every weekday. This went on for about half a year, and meanwhile Peter was not allowed to go out and look for acorns. After that, life returned to normal and walking to and from school started again. Racism was also common in the 1960s, and even adults had trouble. One day, when Argiro was at home and Jimmy was still a baby, she heard some stones hitting her windows and roof. The next day was the same, so she took notice of the time and waited the following day to see what would happen. Argiro saw two boys on their way home from school take aim at her house and throw stones they had collected for that reason. They were aged about 10 years. Next day, Argiro stood outside in her front yard when the boys walked proudly past. To her big surprise, they threw stones at her, and one even hit her baby. They quickly ran down the road, but Adgiro decided to take action and followed the boys to see where they lived. She planned to talk to their parents. They had slowed down because they had not realized Adgiro was following them. When they reached the park beside the Hamilton Olympic swimming pool at the bottom of Billy Goat Hill, they suddenly saw her and started running. Adgiro gently put Jimmy on the grass and chased the boys. As she got closer, she screamed at them never to come near her house again. They kept running and didn't look back, but she never had any trouble with them throwing stones again. In fact, one day, as Argiro was walking along her street, she saw a lady walking towards her. The lady was looking confused with the behaviour of her son, who was trying to hide himself behind his mother. As the lady and Adgiro passed one another, Adgiro saw it was one of the boys who had thrown stones. He was now red-faced and very quiet. His mother did not know what it was all about, and Adgiro smiled to herself.